Captain Jake Brennan looked at the broken view screen of his cargo ship and saw stars moving by as if they had somewhere better to be. This was it for him at 47 years old. He had one last job to do before he sold the Iron Sparrow for scrap and found out what happened to old freighter captains after they retired. The ship creaked and groaned around him, which made him feel uneasy. She used to be a good ship back when Earth made things that would last. What now? Now she was held together by spare parts, prayer, and anger. A lot like Jake himself. He typed in the coordinates on the navigation computer, his fingers moving automatically. The far reaches. Since the Galactic Council said this area was empty, no one came here anymore. Jake had learned something in the 25 years he spent moving cargo across the void. When fancy alien ships with bioneural interfaces and quantum processors couldn't see anything, human eyes and stubbornness sometimes found treasure. The coffee maker sputtered and made something that was barely liquid. Still, Jake drank it. Since people have been pushed out of the best trading routes, real coffee costs more than gas these days. The big alien civilizations had better technology, faster ships, and no desire to treat fairly the species that still used combustion engines. His scanner made a noise. Then it pinged again, more strongly this time. Jake frowned and leaned forward in his chair. The readout showed something in the field of debris ahead. Big thing. Something that gave off energy signals that made his old equipment almost scream. He muttered, "That's not possible," as he moved the scanner. There had to be a problem. The sensors he used were older than most of the people living on the rim worlds. But the readings stayed the same. Whatever was out there was alive. And hurt. Jake's instincts from living in the dark told him to turn around. It wasn't right for something that strong to be in a salvage zone, and getting involved with things that were above your pay grade was a quick way to get killed. He had seen it happen to pilots who were better than him. His hand was close to the controls for the helm. He should run away. Smart money said to run. Instead, Jake changed course to follow the signal. He said to himself, "Curiosity killed the cat." But satisfaction brought it back. The field of debris came into view, with pieces of old warships floating in the dark like metal tombstones. Thousands of years ago this was a battlefield. Now there was only silence and wreckage. The energy signature got stronger. Jake carefully moved the Iron Sparrow between twisted hull plates and weapons platforms that were already dead. His ship was old, but it could move quickly when it wanted to. Then he noticed it. Jake's breath caught in his throat. His brain had a hard time understanding what his eyes were seeing. A dragon. There was a real, live dragon stuck in the twisted wreckage of what looked like a command ship. Scales that shone purple and gold, wings that could cover a whole city block, and claws that could rip through the armor of a starship like it was tissue paper. "No way," Jake said softly. "Not a chance. Dragons were not real. Legends that couldn't possibly be true that the older races told about their past. But there it was, bleeding gold blood into the void, with one wing pinned under a big structural beam. The dragon's eyes opened as Jake's ship got closer. They were the color of molten amber and had been around for a long time. The creature's huge head turned toward his tiny hauler, and Jake felt something touch his mind. Not words, more like feelings. Bang. Desperation. A request. Then the dragon did something that couldn't be done. Its shape changed, shrank, and moved as if reality itself could be changed. A woman was floating in the wreckage where a creature the size of his ship had been. At least like a person. She still had those scales and eyes, but they were in a shape that Jake's brain could understand better. She was about 5.5 feet tall and had cuts all over her body that bled the same golden blood. Her hand reached for his ship, but then it fell. Jake's comms started to make noise because of proximity alarms. His hands moved quickly over the controls, bringing up the long-range scanner. His blood turned cold. Ships of war. Very big ones. Jumping into the sector from fold space, their signatures lit up his screen like angry stars. They were looking for her. Jake had about 3 minutes before the ships got close enough for a detailed scan. He had 3 minutes to make a choice that would likely end his life. He looked at the woman who was floating in the wreckage and not moving. As the warships got closer. In his own small cargo bay, there wasn't even enough room for spare parts, let alone a hurt alien princess. "I'm an idiot," Jake said as he walked toward the airlock. He grabbed his EVA suit, the one that had more patches than original material and had always worked for him. Full idiot. He rode his bike through the airlock, using the thrusters on his suit to get across the gap. Her scales were barely moving and she was barely breathing. She was even harder to believe up close. At the same time, it's beautiful and scary. Jake put his arms under her shoulders and kicked back toward his ship. She was lighter than he thought she would be, or maybe it was just the adrenaline. He didn't stop to think about what he was doing because if he did, he would have realized how crazy it was. The airlock closed behind them. Jake took off his helmet and used his basic medical scanner to check her vital signs. Still alive. Not very much. Don't die on me, he said as he pulled her toward the med bay. I'm not going to risk my life just to move a dead body. Now the warships were closer. Jake strapped her into the medical bed and ran back to the bridge. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, turning off all the systems that weren't needed. The Iron Sparrow went dark and quiet, just like all the other junk in the area. Jake saw sleek alien ships glide by on his view screen. They were beautiful ships, with flowing lines and living metal that pulsed with energy. Their advanced scanners barely picked up his rust bucket. Too basic. Too low to notice. He was counting on that. The warships moved through the wreckage field looking for something. Jake held his breath and put one hand on the engine restart button, ready to run if they came toward him. No, they didn't. The warships moved on after what seemed like hours but was probably only 10 minutes. They jumped back into fold space with hardly a ripple. Jake let out a long breath, his heart racing. He looked at his hands. They were trembling. He said okay to the empty bridge. Okay. The woman moved in the medbay. Her amber eyes, which were impossible to see, opened and locked onto Jake's face. He felt that mental touch again and it was clearer this time. Words came to him in a way that no human language could describe. Why did you help me? Jake ran a hand through his hair, which was turning gray. Why did he? He didn't know who she was. Not knowing what she had done or why those ships wanted to kill her. He should have left her by all logical standards. Seemed like the right thing to do, he finally said. She looked at him like he was speaking a language from another planet. Jake thought he had. It seems that doing the right thing wasn't the same for everyone. I'm Valeria, she said, and her voice was both rough and musical at the same time. Princess of the Dracothian Empire. Jake Brennan, he said. Captain of not much. She tried to get up but she gasped and fell back down. They gave me poison. My brother. Left me to die. Jake said, well, dying is going to have to wait. He pulled up a navigation chart. First, we need to get you to a safe place. He set a course for neutral space, hoping that his engines would hold up. The field of debris behind them was still again. But Jake Brennan's peaceful life was over. He didn't know it yet. Jake had a lot of time to think about his life choices while he limped through deep space for 3 days. The engines of the Iron Sparrow wheezed like an old man going upstairs, and every time it jumped through hyperspace, it felt like the ship might break apart. But they were still moving and still ahead of whatever was after Valeria. She had taken over his small medbay, so Jake was sleeping on a pile of old tarps in the cargo hold. Not that he got a lot of sleep. He woke up every time the ship creaked or groaned, thinking that warships were coming. Valeria was strong enough to leave the medbay on the second day. Jake found her in the engine room, looking at his reactor core like it was a piece of art in a museum. This is interesting, she said, moving her scaled fingers along a pipe that carried coolant. You really burn refined fuel to make thrust? Yeah, Jake said, sounding a little defensive. It works. But it doesn't work very well. So rude. She wasn't being rude, she was just really confused. My people stopped using combustion technology 12,000 years ago. We use psionic interfaces, bioneural integration, and quantum entanglement drives. Jake rested against the door frame. Well, we're still trying to figure things out. Only about 300 years have passed since we got to space. 300. Valeria looked at him. That's not much. A young species. Yeah, well, this baby species just saved your royal behind, Jake said. Maybe crude isn't so bad after all. She smiled at that and her teeth were a little too sharp. No, maybe not. They talked for a day. Talked a lot. Valeria talked about the Dracothians, an ancient race that had been controlling politics in the galaxy for thousands of years. They worked behind the scenes, pulling strings to stop wars and, at times, starting them. They thought of younger species as kids who needed help. My group didn't agree, Valeria said as she sat cross-legged on Jake's old couch. We wanted to show who we are. Make real partnerships with other species like yours. Stop using people as pawns. Let me guess, Jake said as he poured himself more awful coffee. The old guard didn't like that. My brother is in charge of the traditionalists. He thinks our bloodline should stay pure and separate. He did something when I wouldn't back down. She touched her side where her scales still showed golden veins. This poison was made just for my biology. Slowly it's killing me. Jake put his cup down. Can it be fixed? Yes. But the antidote needs refined titanium-9. It's rare, hard to work with, and only found in certain asteroid fields. Let me guess. Fields that most advanced species don't want to work in because the mining is too dirty, too dangerous, and too much work. Valeria nodded. Exactly. Jake shook his head and laughed. But what about people? We'll dig through anything that could make us money. We have so much titanium-9 that we can't get rid of it. Processing it is going on in half of the mining colonies on the rim. Valeria said softly, that's why I need your help. I can't go back to my people. And I can't get around your human space without someone who knows how to do it. The ship's alarms went off before Jake could say anything. He ran to the bridge and his coffee flew everywhere. The scanner showed that 5 ships were getting closer quickly. From the way their hulls and weapons don't match, they look like pirates. Wait a second. Jake yelled and fell into his pilot's seat. The pirates started shooting right away. The Iron Sparrow's shields flickered and died after the 3rd hit from the energy blasts. Jake swore and sent the ship into a wild spin. Valeria stumbled onto the bridge, still feeling weak. Let me help you. I can make a wall. She gasped and fell against the wall. Not yet. Not strong enough. Stay down. Jake said, his hands moving quickly over the controls. The pirates were working together to attack him, surrounding him in a normal way to stop him. Their AI was probably in charge, figuring out the best ways to fire and guessing what he would do next based on tactical algorithms. That meant Jake had to do something that no algorithm would have seen coming. He completely destroyed the main engines. The Iron Sparrow drifted into darkness. The pirates thought they had killed someone, so they moved in closer to board. Jake waited. Counted. 3, 2, 1. He fired the maneuvering thrusters in an order that didn't make sense. The ship spun around a lot, showing its strong belly to the closest pirate. At the same time, he let air out of the port side, which caused the Sparrow to spin out of control. The pirates' targeting systems went crazy trying to find him. Their AI couldn't handle movement that was this random and chaotic. Jake opened the cargo bay doors, letting all the scrap metal he had collected go. Debris flew out in all directions. 2 pirate ships flew straight into the cloud, and their shields lit up. Now we run, Jake growled as he turned on the main engines. But they didn't catch. He hit the restart button. Nothing. Come on, baby. Please don't do this to me. A pirate ship got ready to fire a deadly shot. Jake did the dumbest thing he had ever done. He aimed the Sparrow's nose right at them and fired the emergency chemical thrusters. The ones that are used to dock. The ones that burned solid fuel and made a lot more thrust than they should have. The Iron Sparrow flew forward like a rocket. The pirate tried to get away, but it was too late. Jake's reinforced prow, which he had to install because he couldn't afford real shields, hit their engine section hard. Metal screamed. The pirate ship turned and let out plasma. The impact made Jake's main engines work again. He didn't ask any questions, he just pushed the throttle all the way down and got them out of there. The other pirates saw their friend get hurt when a cargo hauler hit them head-on, so they decided they didn't want to be a part of whatever crazy thing had just happened. They split up. Jake led the Sparrow away, but his hands shook on the controls. He couldn't see clearly at the edges. I'm pretty sure he broke some ribs in that crash. He finally set the autopilot and fell back in his chair. When he looked up, Valeria was looking at him. Your kind is totally crazy, she said. Yeah. Jake coughed and tasted blood. We hear that a lot. That move broke every rule of tactical combat. You should have died. Maybe. Your actions didn't make sense, so their AI couldn't guess what you would do. That's how it is for me. For a long time, Valeria was quiet. I've never seen anything like that in 12,000 years. You fought ships that had better weapons, shields, and everything else. And you won because you were so brave and crazy. Jake was able to smile weakly. It's just what we do. We don't win because we're smarter or stronger. We win because we don't know when to give up. And because we do things that don't make any sense to anyone who is thinking logically. She helped him get to the medbay and her touch was surprisingly soft. Jake noticed that her face changed as she used things from his basic kit to treat his wounds. You saved me again, she said. 2 times now. Most people would have weighed the risk and left me. Most beings aren't people, Jake said. We're really good at making bad choices for the right reasons. Valeria's laugh sounded like wind chimes. Maybe your kind is better than mine in the ways that matter. Jake said, we just call it being decent. It's not fancy at all. She finished putting the bandages on his ribs. Where did you put those reinforced hull plates? The ones you used to hit that ship? Oh, those? Jake grinned. I couldn't afford energy shields when I bought this boat. Instead, I put extra armor on the nose. I thought that if I was going to hit something, I might as well hit it hard. Valeria shook her head in disbelief. You turned a weakness into a weapon. Again, Jake said. Sort of our thing. Valeria watched Jake work as they got closer to Virgin's Point, the neutral station where he hoped to find Titanium-9. This person had done what whole fleets of her people might have had trouble with, using his simple ship and crazy strategies. He had lived because he was so stubborn. And for the first time in her long life, she started to understand why her group thought younger species should be treated with respect. They had something that old races had forgotten. They still thought that trying things that seemed impossible was a good idea. Haven 7 looked exactly like what it was. A human mining colony in the middle of nowhere where people came to get rich or die trying. Most of the time they die. The station clung to a huge asteroid, and drilling rigs chewed through rock day and night to get minerals that more advanced species thought were below them. Jake led the Iron Sparrow into Docking Bay 12, which is for ships that have seen better decades. Around them, other human ships were in different states of disrepair. They were all rusted out. But they were home. As Jake got ready to leave the ship, he told Valeria, "Stay in the ship. Haven 7 doesn't like outsiders, especially those who are worth a lot of money." Valeria frowned, and the color of her scales changed a little. "I'm not used to hiding." "Yeah, well, get used to it quickly. You're a king or queen. I understand. But here, royalty just means expensive." Jake put on his old jacket and checked the small plasma gun that was hidden in his belt. "People who would sell their own mother for beer money, smugglers and criminals live here." "A princess from Dracothia? That's money for retirement." She didn't want to, but she nodded. Jake walked through the hallways of Haven 7, breathing air that had been recycled and tasted like metal and despair. There were always a lot of people at the station, and it was always loud. Miners leaving work, traders selling things, and kids running through the market stalls. It was dirty, dangerous, and human, and Jake felt more at home here than he had in years. He found Danny Ortiz at the same old bar, the Broken Drill, which was dirty and run down. Danny was a retired old Navy man who lost his leg in a fight with raiders. He now delivered supplies, both legal and illegal, to anyone who had credits. Danny said, "Jake Brennan?" and his old face broke into a smile. "I heard you were dead." "I've heard that myself a few times." Jake sat down next to him on a stool. "Need a favor?" "Of course you do. People don't come to see me because I'm so nice." Danny drank what was in his glass. "What do you want?" "Refined Titanium-9. For medical use. About 50 grams. Danny's eyebrows went up. "That's a lot of money?" "That's strange too. What does a cargo hauler need with titanium that is medical grade?" "Have a sick friend." "Must be a good friend." Danny looked at him closely. "I can get it. It will cost you 8,000 credits. Jake flinched. That was almost all he had left. But he shook his head. "Okay. I'll send the credits over." Danny said, "Give me 6 hours." Then he got closer. "Jake, a piece of advice. People have been talking on the station. Someone is asking questions about strange ships and strange passengers. You might want to keep your head down." Jake's blood turned cold. "What kind of person?" "The kind that has money but no morals. People who work for Tony. Tony Marcelli." Jake's stomach turned at the name. Tony ran Haven 7's underworld, which was mostly about trading information. Someone was paying Tony to ask questions. "Thanks for the heads up," Jake said, putting extra credits on the bar. He hurried back to the ship, his mind racing. They had to get the titanium and leave quickly. But when he got to the docking bay, his heart sank. 3 of Tony's thugs were waiting outside the Iron Sparrow. They weren't the only ones. A lot of people had come to see the show. Valeria was standing on the cargo ramp, where everyone could see her, and her scales reflected the harsh light from the station. "Jake," she yelled when she saw him. "These men made me go with them." I said no. "Yes, she did." Jake pushed his way through the crowd. "Sir, there was a mix-up." The main thug, a big guy with extra arms, smiled. "No confusion. We know who she is. Tony wants to see you too. Now." Jake's hand moved toward his gun, but he stopped. There were too many people in the crowd. There are too many civilians. What if we say no? Then we do this the hard way. Valeria's eyes flashed gold. Jake could sense the strength growing in her. "Don't," he said in a low voice. "Too many people saw it. We play this smartly." She looked at him with a blank expression. It was clear that she didn't have the instinct to play smart. Jake knew that she trusted him, though. She really did trust him. "Go ahead," Jake said. Tony Marcelli was in charge of a gambling den, where he was with his crew. He was a small man who was neat and precise. He liked to manipulate people instead of using violence. That way it's more dangerous. Captain Brennan, Tony said in a nice way. And your strange friend. Please take a seat. They sat down. Jake kept his hands in plain sight and relaxed. Valeria was full of rage that she could barely hold back. Tony went on, I'm going to be honest. I know what she is. Dracothian. The elder race. Most likely royalty given how they look. The reward for her head could buy this whole station twice. And yet we're talking, Jake said. That means you want something else. Tony smiled. Smart. That was always something I liked about you, Jake. Yes, I want something different. Data. Who wants her to die? What? What's going on in politics? Jake said in a flat voice, that information could get you killed. Living on Haven 7 could kill me. At least this way I get paid first. Tony leaned in. This is what I'm offering. Tell me everything. I'll make sure you get off the station safely, give you fake transponder codes, and even throw in that titanium 9 Danny's getting for you. I know about that too. Alarms went off in the gambling den before Jake could answer. Red lights for emergencies started to flash. Sir. One of Tony's guys broke down the door. Security says a ship just got into the system. Signature of Dracothian. It's sending out a message that the princess should come back. The room got quiet. Everyone looked at Valeria. Tony's face turned white. You brought them here? To my station. Jake's mind was racing when he said, they somehow tracked her. We have to go. Now. Nobody's going anywhere, Tony yelled as he pulled out a gun. His crew did the same thing. She's my way out of this. They want her and I get paid to bring her to them. At that point Valeria got up. The room got colder. Her body rippled and scales spread across her skin. Her eyes were pure gold. I have put up with being called merchandise, she said, her voice full of power. Being treated like a thing. Being kept secret like something bad. Valeria of the Dracothian Empire says, I'm done hiding. Tony got fired. The plasma bolt stopped 3 feet from Valeria and hung in the air like a bug in amber. Time itself seemed to move more slowly around her. After that, she moved. Not fast but with perfect accuracy. She made reality bend to her will. The thugs' weapons turned into liquid metal that dripped through their fingers. 3 men who tried to get backup weapons were frozen in time and couldn't even blink. Everyone in the room was frozen in fear. Not Jake. He stood up, fixed his jacket and looked at Tony. Here's how this works, Jake said in a friendly way. You're going to give us those codes for the transponder. You are going to get us that titanium. And you're going to let me into Bay 7 where I saw you keep that nice, fast courier ship. We're going to take that. Tony, who was sweating, nodded like crazy. You're also going to forget that you ever saw us, Jake said. If you don't, my friend here can do things that are much worse than stopping time. She can change it back. Make you go through the worst day of your life again and again. For all time. Do you want to test me on that? No. No, take anything you want. Valeria let go of the room. The men who were frozen fell and gasped. The weapons stayed in liquid form. Tony yelled after Jake and Valeria as they left. Brennan? What makes her want to stay with you? She could level the station. She could have anyone she wanted. Why is the cargo pilot broke? Jake stopped at the door. He looked at Valeria and she looked back at him with those old eyes. Valeria answered for him, because he sees me. Not my power. Not my name. Not what I can do for him. He sees me. That is less common than all the titanium in this system. Tony's crew was shocked and speechless. Jake planned their escape route 20 minutes later, when they were on the courier ship with the titanium safely stored. The Dracothian ship was still in the system looking for something. That was amazing back there, he said. The power thing. Very impressive. I could have done it earlier. Avoided all of this. Maybe. But then Tony would be a stain on the wall and half of his crew would be dead. This way they're just scared and have less money. Better result. Valeria was in the co-pilot seat looking at him. You think about what will happen. For a long time. Most powerful beings don't. Most powerful people don't have to, Jake said. Us regular people learn quickly that everything we do costs something. We can't just push through problems. She grinned. Maybe that's why your kind will live on even when older races die out. You know something we forgot. What is that? That real strength isn't power. It's being able to tell when not to use it. Jake started the engines and they slipped away from Haven 7, 2 unlikely allies running from an empire, held together by something they didn't quite get yet. Honor. Trust. Friendship. The way of people. The Titanium 9 worked like a charm. Jake stood in the doorway and watched as Valeria gave herself the compound. The golden poison in her veins slowly faded away. Her scales went from dull bronze to their natural shiny purple and gold color. The cuts healed. Her breathing got steadier. How long until you're back to full strength? Jake asked. Hours, not days. Valeria moved her fingers, and little arcs of energy danced between them. I can feel it coming back. My strength. My link to the cosmic threads. Okay. I have a feeling we're going to need it. Jake was right. All of the alarms on the courier ship went off at the same time 2 hours later. The long-range scanner lit up like a party, showing huge energy signatures coming out of fold space. 12 boats. Everything is Dracothian. All around their position. They found us, Valeria whispered as she moved to stand next to Jake at the wheel. The lead ship was huge, at least 5 times the size of a human dreadnought. Its hull was covered in bioorganic plating that changed colors like oil on water. Scary and beautiful. There was a message. Valeria froze when she saw the face on the screen. The man had the same scales and old eyes as her. But Valeria's face was warm, while his was cold and calculating. Hi, sister, he said. I am Prince Garrett from the Dracothian Empire. Garrett, you led us on quite the chase. Valeria's voice was cold. I see you're still doing your father's dirty work. Father has died. I am now in charge of the traditionalists. Garrett's smile didn't reach his eyes. And you, dear sister, are a traitor to our family. Hanging out with primitives? Telling each other our secrets. You've broken every law we hold dear. Valeria shot back. I've hurt your pride. That's what makes you mad. That I might be able to show that younger species deserve respect. Respect. Garrett laughed. Look at how low you've fallen. Running away in a stolen ship with a pilot who is a person. Is this the big group you had in mind? Jake had heard enough. He turned off the mute on his mic. Hey, Your Highness. Hey, it's Jake Brennan. I just wanted to say that you're a bit of a jerk. The bridge of Garrett's ship stopped making noise. Valeria looked at Jake like he had a second head. Did that primitive just call me names? Garrett said it slowly. Yes. Thought someone should. Jake leaned back in his seat. You tried to kill your sister because of politics. That makes you a coward and a jerk where I live. It doesn't matter what the title is. Garrett's face twisted in anger. Then he laughed and it was cold and sharp. Funny. Very good, basic. This is what I have to offer. Give up Princess Valeria, and I will give you more than you could ever imagine. 10 million credits. A brand new ship, the best of the best. Full forgiveness of all debts. You can choose any mudball planet to retire to and live like a king. Jake stared at the number on his screen. 10 million. He could get a big house. A group of ships. He will never have to work again. His hand was above the controls. Jake, Valeria said softly. Take it. I can fight them now that I'm strong enough. I won't let you die for me. You've done enough. He could tell she was getting ready to teleport away and face her brother by herself. To probably die alone no matter how strong she was against 12 warships. Jake chose what to do. He swore he would never use the map that came up on the navigation computer when he moved his fingers across it. Yeah, that's not going to happen, he said. Jake. Your brother is right about one thing. I only fly cargo. Bro. Not anyone special. But I'm human too, and we have this problem where we don't know when to stop. He made a plan that made Valeria's eyes go wide. You're my buddy. That means we're not giving up. We're going through. Garrett's smile faded on the screen. Through what? Jake said, the shattered belt, and pushed the engines to their limits. The shattered belt was famous among human pilots. An asteroid field full of unstable dark matter, gravitational anomalies that could rip ships apart, and radiation that ruined electronics. 50 years ago, the Galactic Council said it was a no-fly zone because a dozen ships had gone missing inside. No sane pilot would have gone in. It's a good thing Jake lost his mind the moment he brought a dying dragon princess onto his ship. The courier ship dove into the field and everything went crazy. Asteroids the size of cities fell through space. They were pieces of planets that had been destroyed millions of years ago. Dark matter pools made things look strange, causing sensors to give different readings and making navigation a guessing game. Jake flew by hand, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. No computers or AI, just human instincts and reflexes. He went through gaps that his sensors said weren't there, ducked under spinning rocks, and climbed over debris fields that seemed to come out of nowhere. The Dracothian fleet followed them. Their advanced ships were quicker and easier to steer. But their AI systems kept stopping, redoing calculations and looking for the safest way. There was no way to be safe. That was the point. Valeria. Jake yelled over the sound of the engines. Can you move those asteroids? Yes, but you'll have to pay attention. Do it. Make them a maze. Jake felt the power coming from her when she closed her eyes. Asteroids moved in ways that gravity shouldn't have let them. The path they had taken behind them turned into a deadly maze. Rock hitting rock and making new problems every second. 2 Dracothian ships weren't quick enough. One hit an asteroid and fell away, its shields failing. Another tried to jump into fold space and ended up in a pocket of dark matter. It just stopped existing, ripped apart by forces that made nuclear reactions look gentle. They're breaking up. Valeria gasped. 3 ships are leaving. Great. Still 9 left. Jake jerked the controls hard to the right to avoid a burst of radiation. His console was covered in warning lights. How long can you keep doing this? Not for much longer. The poison made me weaker than I thought it would. Jake looked at how much gas he had left. Almost out. The ship's shields were only at 15%. Life support was going up and down. They were dying by inches. But they were ahead. A little bit more. The Iron Sparrow then lurched. Jake's heart sank when he saw the damage display. A tiny meteorite, smaller than his fist, had punched a hole in their hull. Hit something important in engineering. The engines were not working. No, 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 Jake said quietly as he tried to start them again. Nothing. Come on, baby. Not right now. The ship started to drift and its speed slowed down. Garrett's flagship came out of the maze behind them, damaged but still whole. Its weapons were charged and its targeting systems were locked on. They were gone. They were dead after all. Valeria touched Jake's shoulder. Thanks. For everything. For seeing me as more than just my title. Thank you for being my friend. Jake looked at her face in the broken view screen. At this impossible person who had put her life in the hands of a nobody pilot. Who laughed at his awful jokes and learned to drink bad coffee without saying anything. Who had become his best friend in 20 years. I'm sorry I couldn't get you out, he said. You already did. You taught me what real loyalty is. What it means to be human. She smiled. That is worth more than staying alive. Garrett's ship got closer, weapons ready to fire. Then Valeria did something that made Jake's heart stop. She turned to look at him fully, and her eyes shone with an inner light. There is one choice, she said. But it changes everything. For both of us. What choice? My people can give their essence to another being. Connect our life force. It gives you more life, power, and connection. But it will last forever. Can't be broken. And it's not allowed with younger species. Jake got it right away. That's why your brother wanted to kill you. Not just because you wanted to be at peace. Because you might really do this. Yes. It would show that our species can live together. That bloodlines aren't pure, they are shared. She put her hand out. I give this freely. Not slavery but partnership. But Jake, there's no way to go back. Neither of us can say how your life would change. Garrett's weapons were fully charged behind them. They had seconds. Jake looked at her palm. At this choice which would change his whole life. When the ships got close enough to kill. After that, he thought about people. He had been pushed around, ignored, and called primitive and useless almost every time. About all the times they had been told to back down, be reasonable, and know their place. He thought about his friend who needed him. Jake held her hand. Let's show the whole galaxy what happens when humans and dragons work together. Valeria smiled, proud and fierce. Yes. Let's do it. They held hands and the universe lit up. The pain hit Jake like a nuclear reactor going critical. As something old and powerful flowed through him, every nerve in his body screamed. He wanted to let go and pull away, but Valeria held on tight. Her scales started to glow, getting brighter and brighter until the whole bridge was lit up with golden light. Jake felt something else through the pain. Valeria's memories, feelings, and very being were all mixed up with his. 12,000 years of life flowing into a mind that was only 47 years old. It should have killed him. Should have fried his brain like an overloaded circuit. But people were stubborn. Their biology wouldn't even give up. Jake's DNA twisted, accepting what it was given and changing in ways that shouldn't be possible. His cells changed shape, adding something new that made him more than human but not less. His mind opened up and touched something big and hard to understand before snapping back to itself. The ship that brought the package changed too. Valeria's touch sent bioorganic material across the damaged hull like living metal. It became one with the ship's systems, combining technology and biology in a way that had never been done before. The engines that had died roared back to life, but they were different this time. Strong. The shields that were failing lit up again and scales appeared on their surfaces. Jake woke up. The view screen looked clearer and sharper. He could see things he'd never seen before, like energy patterns in space and the quantum signatures of the ships that were following them. He moved his hands to the controls and felt the ship respond to both his commands and his thoughts. They had stolen the courier ship from Haven 7, but now it was something completely different. Human engineering wrapped in Dracothian biotech and held together by sheer will. "What are your feelings?" Valeria asked, and her own scales sparkled with new patterns that looked like a mix of human and dragon. Jake said, "I feel like I've had 100 cups of coffee and can see through time." His voice was the same, but he felt different. More powerful. Not bigger in size, but somehow denser, as if every atom in his body had been packed together and made stronger. "Is this normal?" "There is no such thing as normal. This has never been done before." Valeria smiled. "But I believe it worked." Garrett's flagship got closer on the view screen with its weapons locked and ready to fire. Jake said, "Let's try it." His fingers moved quickly over the controls, but the ship moved before he was done with the commands. The ship seemed to know what he wanted, responding to both his intent and his input. They turned away from Garrett's first volley, and the shots went through empty space. Jake jumped back into the shattered belt, but this time it was different. He could feel the asteroids, the gravitational currents, and where the dark matter pockets would form. Instincts of people mixed with Dracothian awareness. Valeria stood next to him, waving her hands in the air. The asteroids did respond, but this time with much more accuracy. The bond made both of them stronger, and she was stronger too. They made a storm together. Rocks the size of buildings flew in certain directions. Dark matter pools opened and closed like doors that were locked. The very fabric of space bent to their will. The Dracothian fleet, which was used to fighting enemies who followed the rules, was thrown into chaos by the unpredictability of humans and the power of dragons. 3 more ships were badly damaged and had to turn back. Another one disappeared into a fold space tear that shouldn't have been able to happen. That left 5 ships. Still very bad odds. But better than 12. Garrett's main ship kept going, taking hits but not stopping. Jake could see the prince's face on the screen. It was twisted with anger and something else. Fear. "Not possible," Garrett yelled. "You've broken every law of nature. You're a horrible person." "Funny," Jake said as he steered their ship through a gap that was only a little wider than they were. "I was going to say we're better." They broke free from the shattered belt and into space. Garrett's fleet came out behind them, hurt and smaller, but still dangerous. The prince's ship loaded up weapons for one last attack. Valeria looked at Jake. She nodded. They stopped running. The ship turned to face the fleet, and Jake felt a surge of power. Not just in the ship but also in him. In the bond they had. It was both exciting and scary. "One shot," Valeria said. "We stop his ship. Let him see what we've become. But we don't kill. We're better than that." "Okay," Jake said. "Let's give them something to talk about." Together they let go of the energy. It wasn't really a blast from a weapon. More like willpower that is focused. A beam of light and matter plus something else, human willpower wrapped in dragon fire. It hit Garrett's flagship right in the middle. Too much load on systems. The shields fell down. The weapon stopped working. But the ship was still in one piece and the crew was still alive, but they couldn't do anything. The other Dracothian ships stopped because they didn't know what to do. Jake made a way for all of them to talk to each other. "Hello, I'm Captain Jake Brennan. People. Pilot of cargo. No one special. But now I'm connected to Princess Valeria, and we've become something your empire has feared for thousands of years. Younger species are not kids to be taken care of. Partners should be respected." Valeria's voice joined his and made it louder at all frequencies. "I am Valeria of the Dracothian Empire, and I am no longer the princess of the old order. My brother broke our most important laws, tried to kill me, and committed treason. I have proof of everything on tape, and I am now sending it out to all Dracothian channels." Data packets exploded all over subspace, going faster than Garrett could stop them. The truth about his betrayal, his crimes, and how he broke their own laws. In a matter of seconds, it reached every part of the Dracothian Empire. Garrett's face turned pale on the view screen. "You've ruined me." Valeria said, "No. I've given you a choice. You can either face justice from our people or spend the rest of your life in exile thinking about what you've lost. No matter what, your group ends today." The other ships in the fleet turned off their weapons. Their captains made their choice after seeing the proof and seeing what Valeria and Jake had become. They wouldn't fight for a prince who had turned into a criminal. Garrett's ship turned away and limped into fold space. Running. Not working. Jake let out a slow breath as the adrenaline finally wore off. "Did we win?" Valeria said, We survived. That's better than winning. Messages came in quickly over the next hour. From the Dracothian Empire asking for answers. From colonies of people asking what had happened. From the Galactic Council asking for an urgent meeting. The galaxy had seen two beings from different species and times become something completely new. And no one knew what it meant. Jake sat in the pilot's seat and stared at his hands. They still looked like people, but when light hit them just right, faint scales shone through their skin. Valeria said he would live longer now. Maybe hundreds of years. His body would heal faster and be less likely to get hurt. But he was still himself. At heart he was still human. He asked, "What do we do now?" Valeria got comfortable in the co-pilot's seat. "We go to Earth. To your government of people. We give them what I gave you. Partnership. Not patronizing advice but a real alliance. We show the galaxy that older and younger species can work together as equals. They're going to go crazy. Maybe." She smiled. "But people are good at making the best of bad situations. It's sort of your thing." Jake laughed and felt better than he had in years. His debts didn't matter anymore. He could no longer live the way he used to. But he had gotten something much more valuable. A partnership. Proof that humans could live with beings who had mastered the stars while humans were still learning how to make fire. "Do you know what's crazy?" Jake said, "I'm going to Earth. I thought my life was over a week ago. I was done, broke, and ready to sell my ship for scrap and disappear. And now I'm connected to a dragon princess, flying a living ship, and about to change the politics of the whole galaxy." He smiled. "People say this. When one door closes, another one opens." I guess they weren't joking. They jumped their ship into fold space where it went to Earth and then on to whatever came next. The shattered belt drifted quietly behind them again. But the galaxy would never be the same again. Because people had shown something that older races had forgotten about during their long lives. That real strength didn't come from having the best tech, the longest history, or the strongest powers. It was about being loyal. About being there for your friends even when it didn't make sense to do so. About not giving up even when the odds were against you. It was about being a person. And now, for the first time in the history of the galaxy, humans were paired with dragon fire. The stars themselves would have to move over to make room for what came next. Jake Brennan, a cargo pilot with no experience, smiled as they flew through space. He still had a life. It was just starting. He was very excited to see what would happen next.